Hello everybody and welcome to this very special video that took me way longer to make than I thought it would. In this video, I will be suggesting a balance change for every single siege operator. I'm doing this mostly as a fun thought exercise, but I do try to keep it to changes that I genuinely think could happen in the current siege. Before we start, I want to set some rules for myself. 1. No undoing of balance changes that I did not like. 2. I can't skip an operator. Everyone gets at least one change, even if it's just a quality of life change. 3. Keep the ideas simple in nature. Ideas shouldn't need long time-consuming reworks to be implemented. And with that, let's get started with Sledge. Sledge should be able to run with a hammer equipped like in Doctor's Curse. Sledge is pretty much perfect as he is now, so the best thing we can do is pretty much give him some quality of life and encourage using the gadget a little bit more. Thatcher. He should lose one EMP, but he should also get the SMG level. We're tuning down his utility a little bit, so maybe he gets banned a little bit less, but we're also encouraging people to pick him more, because now he has a little bit more of a fun loadout. He's a 1-speed, so I'm not really worried that he's gonna turn into some sort of fragger demon like Sledge was. Smoke loses the deployable shield, but he gets the bulletproof cam, as well as making his smokes not see-through. This opens up a new dimension of gameplay by using the bulletproof cam to look through his own smoke and then shoot through it, but we're also tuning down his competitive utility a little bit by removing the shield. Mute should be able to place his jammers on walls. Mute is pretty much perfect where he is right now, but some quality of life changes that also opens up new ways to set up with Mute would be really cool to have in the game. Ashe loses breaching charges but gains EMP impacts. I want to slow down Ashe's role a bit and turn her a little bit more towards the supportive character. I think that would fit her a lot better. For Thermite, we're giving him the ballistic shield as a third primary option. Not only are we bringing back the OG FBI recruit, we're also adding a new cool way to play Thermite and actually allow you to safely approach certain walls that might be harder to do otherwise. Castle's barricades should be faster to pull down. Castle is a fantastic operator when a good player plays him. Unfortunately, that's usually not the case, so making it a little bit easier for teammates with a bad castle to get around these things would be really nice. Pulse gets the bearing 9 as a secondary option, as well as being able to vault while he has his scanner up. Pulse has kind of been power creeped by Solis, so I want to push him up a little bit in order to allow him to see some play. On Twitch, I'm removing 1 damage from the F2. In reality, I'm removing her Claymore and replacing with a breaching charge. I think this provides better gameplay for her in general and less passive as well. If you're worried about flank watch on Twitch, you have 3 drones. Use them. Monty has one of my favorite changes and you're gonna see them on the other shields as well. I think Monty should get a secondary shotgun, and in this case the super shorty. I think secondary shotguns on shields provide much more consistent gameplay. It makes them dangerous up close and pretty much useless over range, which is what shields should be. At the moment, there's kind of this weird gambling aspect of playing shields and hoping you hit your shots. I don't want that. Doc should get the similar mechanic that Lee Shun, Wama and Azami has, where he gains more stims over the course of the round. Doc is supposed to be a supportive character, yet most people play him as a hyper-aggressive character and mostly uses the stims on themselves. Encouraging Doc to actually stay alive in order to dish these stims out to other people who should be playing aggressive fits his gameplay a lot more. For Rook, we're giving him the deployable shield in place of his impacts. I think the latest rework to Rook has made him slightly more viable, but giving a little bit more utility could help solidify him in the meta. Glass. We're removing the magnification on the thermal side, however, we're allowing his OTS-03 to have any optic attached to it, so you can actually pick exactly at what ranges you want to work at. We're giving Fuse the bailiff, not only to go with the whole secondary shotgun on shield gameplay that I want, but even if you're not playing shield on Fuse, you also get that slightly more utility that could also help solidify Fuse just a teeny weeny bit. Capcan is kind of fine where he is, so I wanted to give him something fun to play with. I wanted to give him the 44 mag. This allows him to, after someone stepped into a trap, you can sort of hunt them down with the 44 magnum, and I think it creates some really cool gameplay. Tachanka should just spawn with all of his 14 Shumikas loaded. He's already clunky as is, the gadget is clunky on its own, also having to reload it is just too much clunkiness. You could almost call him Ta-clunky. Get it? Blitz gets the same treatment as the other shield operators. A bailiff. Again, I think it creates a lot more consistent gameplay with shields. They provide less RNG gameplay. Trust me, it's gonna be great. IQ gets EMP impacts. Ever since they've been added, we've all wanted to play her with EMP impacts. It might be the last bit of love that she needs. She's never gonna get frags back, but at least let us try the EMP impacts. Jäger becomes a 3 armor. I think if it's better as an anchor, so I think that's where it should be. However, I also want to give him the 1.5 on the 416 for some OG love. Bandit lags behind a little bit, especially when you compare him to the cooler Bandit. So I wanted to give him the 8-12S so he can actually help out with sight setup. I think it fits his role. Why haven't we done this already? Buck gets smoke grenades added to his existing loadouts. Buck is underrated as he is, so I just want to give him something else. So play this guy. Why aren't you playing this guy? Frost is pretty much perfect as she is. She's definitely not pointing a gun at my head, and it's especially not her brand new MK14, which I think she should have. She is pretty much perfect as she is, and just giving her a new gun to play with could give her some new cool playstyles that I think would be really fun to toy around with. Blackbeard. I'm gonna break my own rules here, but Yui broke the fucking Geneva Convention when they put this godforsaken operator in the game in the first place. And then, when I gave them a banger rework idea for him, they just used it to make Osa's Talon Shield. Yes, I'm still mad. Rework this cunt. Valkyrie loses one black eye camera. Despite all the other nerfs that Valk has gotten, she is still one of the best defenders in the game and only really has one solid counter. She will be more than fine with just 2 cameras. Capitao sits at the same spot as Buck, pretty much on the fine line of being meta or not. I just want his smoke bolts to last as long as a regular smoke grenade. That's not that crazy. Caveira gets smoke grenades added to her loadout. Ideally, it would be a new gadget sort of like smoke impacts, but for simplicity's sake, I'm just saying smoke grenades at the moment. It would add some chaos and disruption to Cav's pretty much one-dimensional gameplay. Hibana should get a 4th setting on her X-Kairos launcher that fires a crouchable 12 pellet formation hole. Hibana again is kind of perfect where she is, but a quality of life change where you won't have to deal with these stupid metal bars appearing because you were off by a little. You get the point. Echo's yokai should tell the player if it's gonna stick to the ceiling or not before you jump, as well as if nobody's sitting on the drone, then it should turn invisible again. On Jackal, I want to fix the risk versus reward management here. He should only be able to ping yellow and red footprints. However, when he do ping them, they should give a current lion scan effect. This removes the whole part where Jackal can keep you scanned for half a round and actually like encourages him to track you before he can even ping you in the first place. Mira's black mirrors should be able to be cracked if 2 explosives are used on them. Ying loses smoke grenades but gain claymores and gun 6. I wanted to be careful with how many throwables Ying actually has, while also giving her some utility clear with the gun 6. If you start to pull out Li Shun's goo, it shouldn't pause the timer. It's still in you. Poison doesn't pause. What kind of time magic is it? Ella gets the same treatment that Doc got. She starts out with 2 Gishmot and gets 2 I can't even pronounce it. She starts out with 2 Grismots and gains 2 Grismots over the course of the round. I want to distance Ella a bit from Thorn because right now I feel like Ella is just a better Thorn. So turning Ella into a less aggressively played operator that can also provide some utility against plants should be really good for her. I can't believe I'm saying this, but for the first time I feel like Sophia is kind of good where she is. So I just wanted to give her the heartbeat charge to her existing loadout. Give her some more options for the gameplay. Dokkaebi, however, is too strong right now. Her loadout is over the top and her gadgets could use a rework, but at the very least we could tone down her utility a little bit. So I think she should just not have EMP impacts. For Vigil, I had a very unique idea. I've always disliked the solo aspect of Vigil, so I wanted to turn his gadget a little bit more team-oriented. And especially with him being behind a little bit, I think we could just buff him straight up to where if teammates are near Vigil when he uses his gadget, they gain the effect too. I'm being careful with Lion for reasons, but replacing his claymores with smokes should add a little bit of fun. Ever since Finka was rightfully nerfed in Brutal Swarm, she's been slacking behind a little bit. So I think making her heals more consistent by upping them to 40, however removing the overhealing aspect of her gadget, could help her solidify her role as a dedicated healer. Maestro goes from 3 armor to a 2-2. Maestro could use the extra health with setup time, and it's not like chunk means high health anymore. Alibi loses 4 damage on the Storm, which puts it in line with the P90, but her Prisma should also copy the stance that Alibi has when she throws them, We're putting a little bit more emphasis on her utility, we're also tuning down her fragging capability a bit. On Maverick, we're fixing his DMR. We're adding 10 rounds to the AR-15. Yeah, brother. Clash becomes a 2-2, as well as the slow being based on range. Closer meaning the slow is stronger. Clash is a very unique operator. She performs really poorly, but many people find her annoying. She's like a Dark Souls boss, but once you learn the mechanics, you know how to cheese her. Lowering her health rating should make dealing with her through chip damage easier, but it also makes playing her a bit easier as you can dodge EMPs and such thrown at you. Making the slow based on proximity to Clash should also make her less frustrating to play against while solidifying her anti-push utility. If an air makes an operator slam into a wall, it should give a much heavier concussive type of effect, which makes the whole combat around dealing with someone who has been hit by an air jab a lot more consistent. Kaid is perfect. It was literally impossible to come up with a good change for him. Even if it was quality of life or a buff or a nerf, he is perfect. He is the gold standard. Although, please give me the 1.5 back. Big Mama gets frag grenades, but loses her breach charges. If this isn't gonna put her on the map, nothing will. But at least we tried. On Muzzy, we're moving the 1.5 on the Roni to the Commando. Boom. Nick loses frag grenades, but gains smoke grenades. I don't know why an operator who can get below sight undetected and nade me from below can do that. But not anymore. Plus, we're reinforcing her stealthy gameplay by giving her smokes instead. Much better. Warden has always had an issue with speculative value, so I want to give him his own flashbangs. This allows him to actually always have some sort of guaranteed value brought, and adds a new fun spin on his playstyle. On Amaru, we're removing the stupid spawn cooldown on the Gara hook. Why is this even a thing? Goyo has by far my most favorite change here. I'm removing his C4 because let's face it, he already has more than enough plant denial to begin with, but I'm giving him the bulletproof camera to allow him to play Space Invaders and protect his own Vulcans from stuff like Twitch drones and Twitch drones. Kali was another very difficult operator to come up with something, because her utility is great, but she's limited by the fact that most people don't want to use the sniper. So I just put a laser sight on it, so now you can bait people using the laser. I don't know. Wamai loses impacts, but gets a bulletproof camera. Yes. When Yana's Gemini gets shot by an enemy, the cooldown should be a lot larger. Just like with Nomad, if Oryx charges an attacker into a wall, the concussive effect should be a lot stronger. Ace is in a pretty good spot now, so I wanted to give him a DMR option, a newly buffed one, so I gave him the AR-15. Brother. Hot take, but Melusi does feel okay as a 1-speed, but her weapon does feel a little bit off par, and I think giving it a 1.5 will help with that. Zero loses one Argus camera, however, each Argus camera now has 2 maximum shots instead of 1. Aruni should not be able to one-punch hatches or barricades. This leads to aggressive gameplay that I don't think is intended with this passive. Flores loses one Ratero drone, however, he gains EMP impacts as a secondary option. As a Swede, the best way I can describe Thunderbird's gameplay is like waiting for the bus to arrive. I want to reduce the cooldown of the Kona station to 5 seconds, but also decrease the amount it actually heals to 5. So we keep a more consistent flow of healing and you don't have to just sit there and wait. Osa feels good, but giving her the option of the Super Shorty as a secondary in order to make angles and soft walls should help lift up her gameplay a little bit. For Thorn, I wanted to move her away from the whole proc and swing mechanic that Ella works under. So I wanted to decrease the activation range of the Razor Boom, but increase the damage range. This means that once it's been procced, attackers have to run further away in order to not take damage. Azami has been a hot topic ever since she's been added. She does perform really well in competitive play, but I also don't really want to nerf her because she's one of the most fun operators they've ever added. So I think the best solution here is to make each Kiba barrier bigger on its own and then reduce the total amount of Kiba barriers to 3. This allows you to still do all the fun stuff, but reduce her overall bulletproof utility. For Sense, we're literally just gonna fix the collision issue on the ROU. Sense should feel good, but they don't, because the gadget keeps hitting walls and other things at angles it shouldn't, because the hitbox of the ROU is bigger than it actually is. Grim, compared to his peers like Lion, Capitão and Jackal, they all have better guns, they have better secondaries, and they have better gadgets. Grim needs all of it. So I want to give Grim a 1.5 on the commando, I want to give him a gun 6 as a secondary gun, and I think the K1 launcher should be able to burrow through soft walls like a fuse does. And last but not least, an operator that, yeah, I am very happy that she launched very strong, and I think that should be a goal moving forward, but she definitely needs a nerf. And I think the best way to nerf her is to nerf the range on the spec IO, going from 15 meters to 11. And that's all 66 operators in Rainbow Six Siege. I hope you liked my ideas, and if you did, of course, slap a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. If you have any ideas of your own, please do post them in the comments. And thanks for watching.